Oh, hi there. I bet you didn't even know it was me. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Outreach Collection. As you can see here by my little friend, today our episode is going to be all focused on our African mask collection. So this one is one of my personal favorites. This is a Antelope Mask from, I believe it's from southern Sudan, and it's from the Nunas people. So as you can see here, this one's pretty hefty. I actually have to hold it with two hands, and I thought it was really appropriate to talk about this mask in front of these two pictures from our pop art collection. You can see we've got one that's smiling and we've got one that's got a surprise face, because isn't that the point of wearing masks in the first place? To make us become somebody that we are not. A lot of us think of masks as something that's part of a costume, usually associated with Halloween. But as you will see from our vast collection of African masks, all of them are a little bit different. Some of them have animal faces like this one. Some of them actually have human faces, big and small. So it is made out of wood. A very heavy wood, and it's also pigmented. If you could smell it, a lot of kids have fun smelling it. It smells like wood as well. And to kind of just flip it around here, you can see it's completely carved out in the middle. This is where my face was at. Now, these came from, a lot of these masks in our collection came from a collector. So there is a wire on the back here, which was probably used to hold it onto a wall for decoration. But if you can see here really close up, there's little holes at the side. So my thought was that maybe this mask was originally intended to be worn, so maybe there was threading through each of the holes, as well as, so maybe that made it so they could be held on the face like I was wearing it. Or, you know, sometimes they wouldn't wear a mask on their face and they would either have it hanging from their person, or you could actually have a mask where it was actually meant to be worn on the top of the head. It could either be walked around like this, or sometimes they would bow forward like this, and it would be like they become like their head would become the face of the person or the animal. This one's really fun too, because you can see all the way through the mouth. So it looks like it almost has like, you know, like a tongue coming out. So, and I also want to kind of show off some of the details, and all of our masks are very detailed. You can see here even the eyes are detailed. There's all of this lovely patterning on the horns to really represent this animal that lives in the area that it's from. It's like an animal that's a type of antelope that's native to the area of Sudan where this comes from, as well as the Congo. So they're really plentiful. It's another way of kind of emphasizing making masks out of things that are in your, what's around you, the nature that's around you, right? And to help us learn a little bit more about the mask in our collection, I've actually invited a guest speaker for this video, my coworker Laura, who's going to teach us a little bit more about some of the other masks in our collection. So Laura, take it away.
We are going to be sharing something a little different today. As a matter of fact, you might notice that I am not standing in one of our gallery spaces, which you've been used to joining us throughout the museum. Today I'm actually in one of our art studios where we conduct a lot of our classes. But I'm excited because you might notice I have some objects in front of me. And these objects actually happen to be one of the very first objects that we ever acquired for something special that we call our outreach collection. So that means maybe some of you even recognize these beautiful masks that I have in front of me that come from the African continent. They all come from actually one specific country. But I really want to share more about our outreach collection and why it is so important to us. These are objects, unlike most everything else in our museum, that you can touch. You can learn from them by feeling them. And then it's really just important to see, you know, what kind of connections we can make and how do we all learn from them, maybe even a little bit differently from one another. So we're going to talk about and highlight today our African masks. I've actually brought out 3 of them. And I like this group right here, these 1, 2, and 3, because of course they all look very different, right? They're different sizes, they're different shapes, which tells us they might be all used for different things. But one of the things that these masks all have in common is that they come from a country called Democratic Republic of the Congo, so or we can just say the Congo. All right, so if we think about this as a country within the African continent, when I look at these and the fact that they are so different tells us that they might all belong to separate tribes. So I'm going to go through each one of them, share a little bit of what I know. Of course, I don't know everything about them. These came to us in a special way. We did not go to Africa to actually get these masks, but we have connections from our museum that were able to assist us in gaining these masks. So the very first one I want to share is this mask right here. And you'll notice, if I hold it up to my face, you're going to notice it's a lot smaller than a human face, right? Which tells me that, there's a couple things. It tells me that just the sheer size of this mask is it's so small it might not even be meant to be worn on my face, right? It's got a very interesting teardrop shape. It's got this beautiful kind of a leaf weaving at the bottom that looks sort of, maybe to some of you, like a beard, right? And even if within this teardrop shape, it has kind of like a heart, as you can see right here. If you really look closely, and we'll maybe do a close-up of this in a second, but if you look very closely, you'll notice that there is sort of a white coloration over the eyes of this mask. And you know, if you really studied it, you'll see that that coloration at one time actually covered this whole heart-shaped space. So this is a mask from the Lega tribe in the Congo. And this is something, if I do a little bit of investigation and I look at the back side, I look and I see that it is very flat, right? So that tells me that not only because of its size, but also because of the way that it is flat on the back, it's really not meant for the face. It's got a little tie right here, so it might be that I could have worn it on my arm, maybe somewhere on my hip. This is part of a tribal ritual that is used as a form of protection, okay? So when it's used in a ceremony, it's traditional that that heart shape would get a kind of a layer of that whitish clay. So the more white we see in a mask like this, and you can even look some of these Lega masks on the internet, you'll see that some of them are almost pure white. And that means that they were used time and time again in ceremonies. As a matter of fact, this might be a mask that would be handed down from one generation to the next within a family. So let's focus on our next mask here. And this one looks a lot different, right, than our Lega mask. As a matter of fact, this one is from a tribe called the Luba tribe, L-U-B-A. And this one has, of course, a very circular shape as opposed to the teardrop shape that we saw. It has some very exaggerated features. That's something we see often in African masks, is the eyes right here look almost like the shape of a football, right? We have a beautiful diamond, kind of a mohawk feature pattern on the top. And then I love these spirals. As a matter of fact, if I were to run my finger across the top, you'll even hear how deep those spirals are cut into this wood. So this is a mask that is made out of wood. So is our other Lega mask, and so is all three of these masks are made out of wood. And that is something that you'll notice in a lot of African art, is that everything is made from a natural material. I even look very closely at the color. There's sort of a reddish color that I see coming out above the eye, within the nose, and even the lips of the mouth right here of this Luba mask. And so I've got a couple things I need to share and that I notice. Again, I'm going to do some investigating on the back side of this mask, and I notice that it's shaped almost like a bowl, right? And if I were to put this on my face, it is indented to the point where I can put this on my face. The problem is that I can't see out of it, right? Watch this. I can barely see out of these tiny little slits. So that tells me another bit of information, right? This mask was probably not meant to be worn on the head or on the face. Instead, it is meant to be worn on the head, kind of like a helmet, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my head right now very carefully, right? See how it fits right there on the head? Now you might be wondering, well, that's kind of different because nobody can really see it if it's pointing up to the sky. So if I look a little bit closer, you'll see some little holes that are drilled into the entire perimeter of the mask. And those holes are actually meant to have some kind of a raffia or a leaf material like we see in our beard down here. And all of that material would hang all the way down to my feet. So imagine me wearing this mask on my head. I have raffia material going all the way down to my feet. I would look like I'm kind of like a standing statue with all kinds of grasses in front of me and around me. Now when I lower my head, this is where the mask comes to life, right? And I want you to be thinking about not only when this mask is worn, do we have that beautiful mask carving and the beautiful details of the mask, but we also have the gathering of those peoples, of the Luba peoples, we have the music that's playing, and all of that is really part of the whole experience. Now this one is really different, right? As a matter of fact, when we bring this one into classrooms, one of the biggest excitements that we find when students see this mask is this idea that it kind of resembles an animal, or something that has large ears, right? So this one is from a tribe called the Boa tribe. And in the Boa tribe, this is a mask that represents the elders, or the people who are listeners, right? So we think about how we emphasize features that are important in a mask. And if some of us, it reminds us of an animal, we think about even how animals use their listening skills to sense danger, to learn about their environment. So all of that is part of what the essence of this mask is about, right? Another fun thing about this mask is if we were to actually, again, do some investigating on the back, and I think it's always important to investigate all aspects of the mask, so front, top, side to side, inside, outside. This one, you can see, actually does have some holes and some opening in the mouth where it was meant to be worn on the face. See that? So it can be worn on the face, it fits just perfectly. And one other thing you can tell about this mask, and if we ever get a chance to share this mask with you in person, you will notice that this mask actually has a story to tell. So there's some repair work that's done with some pine resin. Right up here at the top, it's kind of a bumpy, sticky substance that's gotten hard over time. I also noticed tiny little holes in this mask. And these holes actually remind me of if I go hiking in the woods and I pick up a piece of, maybe a dead piece of tree bark or a tree limb or a stick, and little ants come crawling out of those little holes, or little bugs. That's exactly what had happened with this mask. So this mask really does demonstrate preservation. So we've got that tree resin that plugs up holes, but also there's a really very distinct smell that we have when we even open up our storage cases of this mask, and it kind of smells like the smoke of a fire. So when this mask was showing signs of wear and had kind of the bug infestation, it was actually put in a very smoky fire to protect it from those bugs that were infesting in the wood. And so they kind of crawl out, and eventually that mask is now protected from the dangers of destruction from insects. So these are just 3 masks that we have. We actually have about a total of 7 masks actually in our collection, but these are kind of our fun highlights.